After my presentation, although I should start with the first pages of the newspapers and journals, which were a little bit misleading after electoral elections. So my subject, which I had to focus on, and I got the task to focus on, was electoral strategies of presidential candidates. Although I am among professionals, Professor Bartłomiej Biskup is one of the best ones who is specializing himself into the strategies. So I hope he will correct me if I'm not fully correct doing that. I'm much more focusing on political parties, but I did my best. So after presidential elections, we are just after like a thunderstorm or avalanche. We are happy that we are just after these elections, although electoral result was very tricky and it is clear, but it shows that Poland is very much divided into two parts. Right now there are some question marks, huge question mark according to and towards the final results. So we will see what will happen next, but for sure the final result won't be undermined. Some corrections can be done by the highest court and Supreme Court of Poland, which right now closed all the poll, questioning some electoral results in some constituencies. So we will see what will happen. I prepared for you some kind of the introduction to the model which I used to analysis of the electoral strategies of both candidates in the second round. As you probably remembered, we've met before elections, before first election round. We had 13th candidates into the second round. We had been left with two candidates with the major results, with the best results, which means Karol Nawrocki and which you have here at the top, Karol Nawrocki and Rafał Trzaskowski. Karol Nawrocki, who represents officially civic bloc, or is described as a civic candidate supported by Law and Justice, and Rafał Trzaskowski, who was supported by governmental coalition, called as a coalition of 15th of October from the last general elections in Poland. So electoral strategy, I'm quoting my colleague who is present with us, what is a strategy in general. So it's, generally speaking, it's general war plan for anyone who starts in elections or does something on a market or the economic market anywhere. And Professor Biskup proposed in his paper some types of the candidates, of the leaders, of those who want to catch our eye and interest and focus and our attention, of course, influence us as electorate to cast our votes for them. And you have here 4 types of such kinds of the candidates, which are called leader, rebel, student, and niche candidate. Everyone has its own characteristics, and everyone from them has its own strategic directions. The bolding here nearby to the rebel, that is unintentionally bold. I done it quite fast, this presentation, but I wanted to be clear what is what. So leader is that candidate who is really who has or who holds the largest share of the electoral market, and who will be trying to increase its share on the market among the voters in this case, defending also its share on the in the market. Rival, it would be elected. That is the candidate in this case in elections who is elected to remove leader, to contest leader, to fight with the leader, But of course, this candidate may have many roles. And the main directions of the strategy of such candidate would be the attacking leader, so positioning him or herself against or towards to the leader, and attacking smaller competitors, or attacking similar competitors, showing some differences. Student type of the candidate would be someone who is imitating, adopting, cloning some ideas, and that is the candidate who deliberate focus on target market, imitating of other rather than presenting something new, shortly speaking. And the last but not least, niche candidate, leader with a narrowly defined market or niche part of the market, which is presenting some special appeal. So that's why this kind of candidate will be stressing some concrete, very untypical or uncommon elements of the program, of the project, of the propositions. I also mentioned in some papers of those who are focusing on electoral strategies, the typology of components, elements of this strategy, political strategy of the or some informative strategy. We may translate it into the electoral strategy. From Mr. Obui, who in his material strategy of success, he proposed and presents 5 components, which I also wanted to mention and to analyze. In each of the candidates, 2 main finally candidates in the second round for the presidency in Poland. So first component is a mission. Simply speaking, the main message, what the candidate wants to do. Important are main characteristics, as you can see, 3 elements. It must be anchored in the future. So looking forward, looking what we have, what kind of plan we have, or that candidate has, of course. Second, it must have a motivating and even dreamlike character. So there is something what we can achieve, which is something great, and we have to lead to that. And the only leader who can realize that, it's me, of course, according to such to the candidate in this case, in this component. And third, it must be credible. Of course. Second, domain of action. That is simply speaking selection of target groups and propose what is adjust to each of the group. Third, strategic advantage. Also, simply speaking, it's to be more attractive to anyone counter partner or the candidate from the market. So positioning and involving in the program and activating aims and clearly defining what is the position of the party or the candidate on the political map. Fourth, strategic objectives, that these are in addition to the previous elements and are defined what specifically and in what time a candidate wants to achieve. And the final element, functional action programs. So this is simply speaking the translation of the strategic concepts into the create action. So what are the concepts in the strategical, in terms of the strategy, what are the concrete actions of the candidate? So if we take into account Karol Nawrocki's position, I also presented him and Rafał Trzaskowski here, and I divided their strategy. First, just presenting you shortly, of course, it demands, the whole material demands deeper research to analyze, to choose what goes where, but using my time, I did that proposition. Of course, we may discuss it. So I took two perspectives: presentation himself, so sorry for some failures, and strategy towards the counter candidate. First, when Karol Nawrocki was presenting himself, he was stressing his personal attitudes, self-convenience, that he's new face, but he has a simple message. He has some kind of experience as being a leader of or the chief or the director of one of the national institution, which we may count on. He was denying some facts during the whole campaign, which has been revealed day by day, week by week, referring to the apartment gate, for example. And he also denied and said that there is, of course, all the explanations, there are different interpretations of facts, and he was presenting that as not true, because he had the good intentions of doing everything what he wanted to help anyone else, anyone, in this case the one person which was named in this apartment gate, for example. He was escaping from the final resolution of doubts. There was an official way to check and to answer finally what has been done, what he did, against the accusations, but he didn't use that path really, I think, consciously. And he was also using that uncertainty about the scandals, just giving the narrative and assessing himself that there is nothing, then we shouldn't think about him negatively. He was his blog, his group of supporting him, the whole structure which was working for Karol Nawrocki's campaign, actively focused on internet and traditional media. Also well structuralized these channels of information communication to the people, to the different, and adjusting the information to different groups of people, and composing information, also adjusting to them, to the old elderly people and also to the young ones. Against the strategy towards the candidate was emphasizing opponents' subordination to the party leader, namely President Donald Tusk, calling Rafał Trzaskowski as a vice president every time. That was a very good mechanism, tool, just giving people or anchoring in memories of the people, of the electorate, that we are dealing with someone who is subordinate to someone. Of course, Nawrocki was stressing that we are living in a bad situation. So his blog, those people who are supporting him, but especially he himself, will propose, will provide simple solutions. There is a simple solution. He knows what to do. There is a threat to Poland and Polishness. He will defend him. Of course, he was naming these threats. He will defend the Polish nationality, identity, Polishness, economy, and security, of course. And although he was stressing that electing Mr. Rafał Trzaskowski, there will be a threat of monopolization of power, government and the parliament, majority of parliament and the head of state would be in the hands of the same, simply speaking or generalizing, the same political parties or block of the political parties. I mean, the civic platform, civic coalition. But he didn't mention, and he didn't want to mention, that in such situation we lived through within the years 2015, 2023. And of course, he was stressing that we are threatened by immigration. Electoral strategy of Rafał Trzaskowski presenting himself. He was named as Mr. Bonjour. He was using that sometimes, making some jokes about himself, and of course expressing his or strengthening, underlying his international and local experience as a mayor of Warsaw. Multilinguality he stresses as an advantage of him. He knows how to behave on the international sphere, in the international salons. But there was a very clear even for those who supported him, as I talked to some people, there was a lack of belief and conviction about what he says sometimes, especially when he has chosen strategy to win over the right-wing part of the electorate, especially after when it come to when it started to be clear that this part of political stage has the majority and got the majority. Of course, I know that time flies, so I'll be shortening what I prepared. Domination, he proved, and of course that must be in research in depth. We had to look at what about the effectiveness of the changing strategy or leaving the left and liberal positions in going into the right-wing side. What was the strategy? Simply simplifying his strategy towards a counter-candidate. Of course, he was after these all revelations about this scandals started to be clear and publicized. He was also using that in his message. That was a negative message, of course. In fact, he was starting the sowing of doubts, but he lacked of their acute clarification. So there was the result of these, doubts about the counter candidate was a limbo. The people didn't know what to think about actually. So there was a lack of ability to reverse disillusionment with the towards the counter candidate. And in conclusion, I used the model which I presented at the beginning. So elements and assets of the electoral strategy according to the elements of the strategy. Concluding, Karol Nawrocki was playing a role of the rival, in terms of the type of the candidate. He was someone new who wanted to conquer the market, the political market from the very beginning, having no, of course, having the support of Law and Justice, but not. Official, not official, of course, but everyone knows that there was that support. But of course, didn't have some connections and chains before with that political party, although we know that he was to some extent connected with these groupings. Rafał Trzaskowski definitely was a leader. Probably too confident of his majority, which he got from the first round, and used that, or probably was thinking about his advantage, which we see and saw during the electoral evening after the second round of the elections. Mission. Karol Nawrocki was quite clear, defined, sufficiently. It was quite clear and simple. Clear, although sometimes there were some clashes towards the right electorate. That was the element which we had to assess negatively in an electoral strategy of Rafał Trzaskowski. Clear, a stronger articulated domain of action, quite clear, with the huge question mark when it comes to the counter-candidate Rafał Trzaskowski. What about the strategic advantage? Karol Trzaskowski has well-structured and good designed. Quite well was, or we may assess it as well, Rafał Trzaskowski. But when it comes to the targeting, I think the better was Karol Nawrocki's strategy, and no unrealistic aims and goals, very coherent appeal, quite poor, and with some clashes inside when it comes to Rafał Trzaskowski. And finally, functional action program, when it comes to that point, clear, no complications, populist, simple answers for everything, for everyone, proposition and some solutions. Not so clear, sometimes mutually exclusive and unconvincing in my perspective, but of course we had to, and it must be researched deeply when it comes to the electoral strategy of Rafał Trzaskowski. Thank you very much indeed. I know that I spoke much too long, as it is probably designed, but if you allow me, that was the first page of the Gazeta Wyborcza, which is in favor of Rafał Trzaskowski, but I have also Dziennik, and they published on the first page the wrong information for the people, showing that there is the victory of Rafał Trzaskowski. That was the same story with Dziennik Gazeta Prawna, but but also the Rzeczpospolita has a wrong information, wrong message on the first page. But I had also, but not here, Trzaskowski Polski. That is that thing, Gazeta Wyborcza. But I had also some newspapers which are in favor of the law and justice, and they had. They probably send their articles later on with the correct information and the correct result of the presidential elections. Thank you very much for your attention, and so sorry being so long.
Thank you very much. It was really very interesting. We will discuss later your speech, and now I give the floor to Bartosz Rudliński, and you have the floor to.
Okay, thank you very much. So Małgorzata, if you can stop share screening, then I can do that, like no worries. Okay, so I also have a presentation. I will do this shorter, but before I start, I'm going to let you know how it was complicated to comment the elections, because truly when I was in one of the radios when Trzaskowski was leading, it was commenting at 9 p.m. and then after midnight I was commenting already different situations. So it only shows that majority of opinion polls organizations, like the companies, made terrible mistakes. So as a political scientist, I declare that we should rank them, we should label them, we should point fingers on them, because I think only one opinion poll showed before the elections that Nawrocki can win, right? Only one among 15. So this is like, it is very complicated to be a political scientist and comment political stuff if you have a wrong data. But let's go on and let's start with my short presentation. One moment. Okay, so over here. Okay, so my question is the following. Could you see my screen? Because then I'm
yes.
Okay.
Very good.
So let's talk about the left. The presidential elections. So there is a question, which left? Because we had 3 left candidates. So among 13, 3 is not a bad result. So I think it shows that left, comparing to the right wing or center right, is not as fragmented, but we had 3 different candidates. I use the academic titles on purpose because later on I'm going to explain you how the majority of candidates been enormously elitist. Dr. Adrian Zandberg, he was representing the Razem party, which is kind of the Podemos style, the left of the protest, anti-establishment left. Magdalena Biejat, she was representing the new left, the former social democratic voters and its electoral committee. Funny fact, she used to be the co-chairman or co-chairwoman of the Razem for many years. So she and Adrian Zandberg been colleagues for ages. They were like the political tandem. And last but not least, Professor Joanna Senyshyn, and she is like from the old left. This is the reason I use the old SLD, Left Democratic Alliance logo, because she was also using that to affiliate her with this old traditional post-communistic left. So they are the final results. So among those three, Adrian Zandberg won. He got almost 5%. So we see that those results were not super fantastic, but totally they were not bad, like they had more than 10% of the votes. So in general, we must admire that there were not bad results for left, really. Like I claim that there were not bad results, especially when we compare the result of the three candidates and total support of the leftist candidates in these elections, comparing to the last results of especially European elections. Last year, during European elections, the United Left, because that time left was not fragmented whatsoever, they got a worse result in the history of the Third Polish Republic for themselves. So it was like 6.3%. And you can see in total numbers of votes, they had, look at 741,000 comparing to almost 2 million. So it was not bad. Of course, there was much more people attending during the elections, but they had not bad result whatsoever. They even had better result than during the historical parliamentary elections with the highest turnout of the Polish history in 2023. So what were the left's nodal points? Because when we discuss like what kind of moments were important for the left, so when I'm analyzing the Polish left, I would like to mention few. First of all, it was during the first debate in Końskie. The Polish participants of our seminar are fully aware there was the first debate co-organized by the electoral staff of Rafał Trzaskowski, who would like to have the discussion only with Karol Nawrocki, with the Law and Justice candidates, though other candidates appeared, including Magdalena Biejat. Karol Nawrocki gave the LGBTQ flag to Rafał Trzaskowski, and he hidden that. Magdalena Biejat during this debate said that, Mr. Trzaskowski, could you give me this flag back, because I'm not ashamed of representing a rainbow family. So it was one of the nodal points. Second, it was the absolutely fantastic campaign for among the youth for Adrian Zandberg. This is one of the pictures from Krakow. This is like so-called small market, Mały Rynek. And you can see the crowd, but even from that perspective, you can see that there was like quite group of people, and I claim that, and I know Krakow quite well. There was, I think, the biggest gathering of the left for the last 20 years. Like I haven't remember any single political event for the left which collected so many people as for Razem during this campaign for Adrian Zandberg. And of course, Joanna Senyshyn. Joanna Senyshyn became kind of viral star of social media. She made this gesture like the emperor from the Star Wars, and she was saying, "Witajcie kochani, welcome beloved," and she became enormously viral person, kind of social media star by her presence and particularly also red color she represented. And one of the nodal points was during the debate when Magdalena, another debate, we had many debates. There was like ongoing debates for 4 hours, 4.5, 5 hours. It was almost impossible to track that. But once Magdalena Biejat asked Karol Nawrocki how many flats he has. And Karol Nawrocki said that he has 1 flat. And then later on, there was this big, scandal regarding one of the flats he bought from the elderly person with alcoholic problems. So Magdalena Biejat started more or less all this flat discussion by asking Karol Nawrocki question about his property. There was also the meeting with the current Polish president, Andrzej Duda, with Adrian Zandberg and Magdalena Biejat during one of the very neoliberal and nasty reforms on health insurance, but I'm going to comment later on. Basically, during the campaign, both Adrian Zandberg, he's member of the Polish Sejm, Magdalena Biejat, she is the deputy speaker of the House from Senate, met with president and asked him to veto a kind of neoliberal reform on healthcare insurance. So I claim that besides kind of bad or not bad or quite good electoral result, left learns from Gramsci Antonio Gramsci about symbolic hegemony, because I would like to show you how the left, even without the tremendous electoral successes, can shape the reality. Let's start with Jarosław Kaczyński. Jarosław Kaczyński is the leader of Law and Justice, a legendary chairman of the populistic radical right. He said that in terms of the floods, this is good to quote, or like worth to quote Adrian Zandberg, because he agreed with Adrian Zandberg that private property and the floods, or like amount of floods, shouldn't be seen in Poland as a kind of investment, that also Polish state should react and or even maybe tax owners of 3, 4, or 5 flats. Then President Andrzej Duda vetoed the reduction in healthcare insurance. So we can see that there was a kind of influence of the left, and that Andrzej Duda vetoed this bill. So right now, we as people who are employed by universities and we are not entrepreneurs would pay much fairer insurance than entrepreneurs, especially those who are self-employed. I had problem to find an English word for koryciarstwo. I probably, some of my colleagues from Poland are going to help me. Thrownness. So this was the name used mostly by Adrian Zandberg when he mentioned that the current government, so-called liberal government constructed by Christian Democrats, conservatives, and social democrats, are using their access to power to give well-paid jobs to their colleagues in the state-owned companies and ministries. And Adrian Zandberg, during his campaign, he was mentioning that this is unfair. This is not how the state should work, and that the current Donald Tusk government is using the same policy regarding friends and giving them benefits as the predecessors from Law and Justice. Public services. Majority of candidates were claiming that public services should be well funded. Though majority of candidates, because of the far right also hegemony made by Sławomir Mencen, was saying yes, we should definitely pay more for healthcare, for teachers in schools, for railways, but we should cut taxes. So of course this is impossible to do both things, but in terms of agreement that we should spend more in public services in Poland were crucial and quite visible. And of course, this is the language of the Polish left. Though we also face some structural electoral challenges for the left, and I would like to show you one particular data which is kind of shocking. Let's see how working class voted on the mid-May. So we see that among candidates from Razem to Platforma Obywatelska, every single candidate from center-right, populist right, or far right, they have much better support among workers than candidates from the left. I mentioned those doctoral degrees. Over here you can see that only Magdalena Biejat has no PhD. All others has. So we had enormously elitistic run, I claim, with enormously well-educated candidates, though among few of them on the screen, their doctoral degree should mean more in terms of their knowledge of politics and how state operates and how we should operate, like functioning in international affairs. I mentioned like the reason why I'm mentioning the working class, because I published 2 studies. You can see over here they were published by FEPS, Foundation for the European Progressive Studies, and Friedrich Ebert Stiftung. I showed how the Polish social democracy lost credibility among so-called people's class or working class. Both in one study I based on existing data, and the second we had the new data and focus groups. So you can, especially in the separation or divorce paper, you can read how or what are the opinions of the popular class, working class from middle-sized towns or villages about the left, and why they hate the left so much. So conclusions are the following, because I'm trying to keep to the time I was given. The conclusions are the following. If the presidential results would translate into parliamentary elections, none of the left-wing parties would make into the Polish Sejm. It would end up with the coalition, like the almost constitutional majority of Law and Justice and Confederacja at the far right. Second of all, I would like to claim that presidential elections showed that anti-establishment left-wing and traditional post-communistic left-wing voters are not cannibalizing each other. So in other words, we've seen quite good results of Magdalena Biejat and Adrian Zandberg, and voters of Razem would never vote for Biejat and vice versa. So we see that we are more or less going to see probably in future two relatively strong, but two left parties can enter the parliament by themselves. And left still has overrepresentation among young people, the middle class and residents of the larger cities. So Polish left is similar to Germany Greens or Die Linke when you compare the structure of electoral profile of voters in Germany and Polish left. After a good result, Razem, the Polish Podemos regained the momentum. So there was a lot of question marks about possibility of Razem to run them by themselves and even meeting the electoral thresholds. So, but the Zandberg results showed that it is possible, especially that they have very limited financial sources. They don't have a lot of party members, but they showed that even with such limited sources, they can win among the left. And last but not least, one of the strategies for the new left, and Magdalena Biejat represented this party, is to run from the Civic Coalition list in the next parliamentary election, especially that after Karol Nawrocki's success, there is a huge chance that we're going to have not like the elections, but not in the constrained time. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope, yes, I managed to do this in 70 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Professor Biskup.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor, for inviting me to Professor Dewald, Professor Wojnicki, in this very good society. And I try to share my presentation. Okay, so maybe it's just oh, okay. Do you see the presentation, the whole presentation? Yeah.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah.
So a few words about right-wing candidates in this election from my side. After the great speeches of my colleagues, okay, so we have pictures of the candidates. So I will tell you the first a few words about each of them, and then a few data about result of election, especially focused on the right-wing candidates, and then some data about electorate flows and electorate structure, especially of Nawrocki and his support. So of course, as Gosia says before, Nawrocki 42, that was the candidate supported by Law and Justice, Prawo i Sprawiedliwość, but the very important was, as Gosia said, that he was non-partisan, non-politician before, and that was the characteristics chosen by Law and Justice Party, and chosen based on the opinion polls. I think it was very important. The second right wing is, and the second result in first round was Sławomir Mencen. It's a leader of Confederacja. Confederation is a right-wing party, something like AfD in Germany or National National Alliance in France. Probably I can compare it to these parties. He is very popular among the young people, and the structure of his electorate is that his voters are mostly men and mostly young people. He's very popular on TikTok, and he's known from some libertarian views, anti-Ukrainian, anti-immigrants, of course, views. And the third is Grzegorz Braun. He's now current member of European Parliament, and he's the chief of Confederacja. Korony Polskiej it's a part of the Confederation, but that was the division of these parties, and he is the smallest. He has the smallest party, but his voters are quite older than Mencen's voters, than Confederacja voters, and focus on the some anti-European Union views and very radical candidate, anti-immigrant, anti-Semitic also. So he is far right, I think. And we had others right-wing candidates, but the very interested was Krzysztof Stanowski. He is here with this victory sign. He is a journalist and the owner of the YouTube channel, Kanał Zero channel, and he is probably he used the presidential election to promote his channel. But that was also interesting because he joined the debates, joined the whole campaign, and he describing the campaigns from the back, from the backstage, and that was enormous effect for the viewers. That his programs had a lot of viewers, millions of viewers, and he also led some interviews with the other candidates. It's completely crazy because one of the candidates led the interviews on his channel with the other candidates, and of course because his channel has a big number of viewers, so also Nawrocki, Trzaskowski, and the other candidates agreed for this and had the interviews with the Stanowski and the other smaller candidates. So it's not very important. And what is the next slide shows the results of the first round, and you can see the result of the right-wing candidates. So these three biggest, Nawrocki, Mencen, and Braun. As you can see, the share of votes, the number of votes, and the others, Stanowski, Jakubiak, Bartoszewicz, Woch. And in common, all the right-wing candidates had over the 53% of votes in the first round. So it's over the 10 million votes. And if you compare it, with the second round, it's almost the same number of votes which Nawrocki had. So it's the difference. The difference is only 200,000. So so we can say that the right-wing candidates had the majority, small, but majority in the first round and also in the second round. But what was the flows of support, flow of the electorate? As you can see, this I'm sorry, but it's not in Polish, but it's slides from the exit polls. So as you can see, Nawrocki electorate comes from, of course, from the first round, support from Nawrocki, of course, 45 almost, but Mencen 30, Braun 11.5, and the other candidates. So, of course, the big support comes from the right-wing candidates, but not only, and because we had a very small difference, because Trzaskowski and Nawrocki, it was 370,000 of votes, so it's not a big number. So if you can see on this slide, Nawrocki also acquired gain in the second round a little numbers of leftish electorate. 140,000 from Zandberg is here, 95,000 from Biejat is here, and from Hołownia, and it's a center candidate, marshal of the Polish parliament, and 40,000 of Senyshyn, Joanna Senyshyn, this lady with this necklace. Of course, that was a lot of electorate from Mencen, 88%, Braun 93% in the Nawrocki structure of votes, but also a small numbers of the leftish candidates allows Nawrocki to win the second round, because if you add these numbers, you have 400,000. So the difference was 370. Why this result was like that? Because I think it's, of course, one of the conclusion. It should be conclusion, but I will say it now, that was mistrust of the left-wing voters for the government, for the current coalition. Yeah? Of course, if you can see the flow of electorate from the Polish political parties, Nawrocki gained the electorate of the Law and Justice, of course, Konfederacja, of course, so Mencen, and Trzaskowski from the coalition, from the Civic Platform and Left, New Left, and so on and so on. And if you can see this structure of electorate, you can see that the votes for Nawrocki comes mostly from the smallest villages and from smallest cities, not only villages. So if you can see, it's 67-65%, and in the biggest cities it's 35. So you can see some kind of class structure of electorate, because for Nawrocki, the voters of Nawrocki comes from the smallest cities, and for Trzaskowski from the biggest and bigger cities. And also, if you from different exit poll data, if you can see age, it's no big differences. So because it's 55, 52, 51 to 48, it's no big difference. But also, if you have sex, it's men red and women blue. So Trzaskowski has significantly more women in the electorate. It's a quite big difference, you can see. And one other factor, faith. It's a scale like agnostic and believers in the bottom, and of course the Nawrocki has the more believers, and if you are faithful, you vote for Nawrocki more than Trzaskowski. It's only it's also the significant factor in my opinion. And if you see the map of Poland, and it's the smallest municipalities, of course you have you can see the share of Nawrocki and Trzaskowski votes and voters. Big cities like Warsaw, Łódź, Silesian agglomeration, of course, and Poznań, and of course eastern and southern Poland for Nawrocki, and for Trzaskowski the other cities. And you have cities for Trzaskowski and western and northern Poland, and situation is almost like in the 2020, because it's a comparison between in the second round between the left and right candidates. So it's of course it's a simplification, but the Duda, our current president, and Komorowski in 2015, and this Duda and Trzaskowski and Nawrocki Trzaskowski. It's you can see these two maps from 2020 and 2025 is almost the same maps. Yeah, so this support is quite stable for the right and left candidates. So I couldn't say that the Poland is divided for two, because the second round is a second round. In the second round, you have to be divided for two. It's no other choice. But of course it's quite it's some kind of simplification, because you in 2015 this share was completely, not completely, but a little bit different. And the last slides shows that. Shows the motivation in the exit poll. One of the exit poll, they asked people about motivation. So, if you are voting for your candidate or against the second candidate, so Nawrocki wants because the more people was against and vote against the Trzaskowski. So you can see in the Nawrocki column 64 Nawrocki, but almost 40 against Trzaskowski. And in the electorate of Trzaskowski, that was the bigger number of positive voters, I can say. So I think that in this small numbers in this small difference between candidates, I think one of the key factor in Poland a few weeks ago, there was the relation to the government, because the government said that you must vote for our candidate Trzaskowski because we will doing our promises, we're keeping our promises, because we will have our president who will not doing veto, and that was, I think, that was failure, that was mistake, because the people part of people said, my God, what did you do in the 1 year and a half when you govern? and where are our promises. So I think that the relation to the government was one of the key factors of this result. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all these three very, very interesting presentation. Now we have time for discussion, time for the audience. You have your yellow hand. I don't know if one of the three presentation want to react to other presentation. I don't know if you want to have some reaction or disagreement or not.
We are professionals and we agree to each other, you know, like there is not a lot of space to disagree on facts we just discussed.
Okay, then I wait your questions. I know the first is always the most difficult. Maybe I want to understand why the young generation likes or vote for extreme right party and etc. How can we explain this? Because from my point of view, I know the influence of TikTok, but it seems to me not so. It's not. Maybe it's a mistake. Explain everything by TikTok in Romania, in Poland, in United States. It's maybe I'm too old. It's possible, but it seems to me too simple. Bartosz?
Yes, if I may, I would like. Of course, TikTok is important, but this is not the core of the motivation of the young. And I was like talking to my students, you know, and my students like, you know, born in 2005, 2004, 2003. So of course, at university I cannot, you know, ask them. So hey, like, are you going to vote for Mensen or Zandberg? But sometimes I ask them like, so hey, could you explain me what is the reason why those candidates are popular? And the most frequent answer, but also this is what other survey shows, that the young people who were like socialized a little bit during pandemic, like they don't understand the current struggle between law and justice and civic platform. For them, the fight between Kaczynski and Tusk is basically the fight of the generation of their parents or grandparents. So of course, you know, like they are saying that, hey, so maybe we should vote for somebody who says, screw them. Like this peace is not our fight, it's not our battle. And of course, when young, and don't get me wrong, like I think that young Poles are very similar to like young Germans, French, or Belgium. Like that they knew that their generation would face like more radical or more antisocial reality than the generation of their parents and grandparents. Like they knew that this is a little bit like lost generation, that they are seeing all those issues, problems with housing, with good labor market. They don't have access to the good paid jobs. So they are voting for those who are saying the loudest against the government or like against the establishment. And I think that this is the reason why both Mensen and Zandberg later on became so popular among young. But youth in Poland are not the biggest amount of voters. Like still baby boomers are going to be they are those shareholders who has the biggest amount of votes. So there will be a lot of frustration between the, you know, those who are like 60, 70 years old and those who are entering the, let's say, voters market as a young people, because then those words are two different realities. So for example, like I'm using different language than my students. I watch different movies. I listen different music. I don't have a TikTok. They do have. So I think that this is one of the reasons why they are voting for Mensen and Zandberg.
Thank you, Bartosz.
I completely agree with Bartosz, and one factor I can add that the traditional Polish, the biggest parties like PiS and PO, has the oldest electorate ever. And 5 years ago, the Civic platform has a very quite young electorate. And before that, the PiS has also young electorate. And this party has the lowest share from, I don't know, 15 years, 60% for these two parties, and the oldest electorate. So it's a sign. I don't know what sign, but it's a sign. Thank you.
Thank you, Katarzyna.
Thank you for these presentations. I'm a professor of political science at University West. I used to be in Sweden. I used to be a student of Professor Biskup, so it's very nice to see you again and hear you speak. That was 20 years ago, so you don't have to remember me, that's fine. I'm just curious to hear about your reflections on the strategies ahead, the strategies post-election. So given the strategies you discussed and what Professor Biskup was discussing, how the shares of electors were split between those two candidates, is the strategy that the Civic Coalition is announcing, their turn to the right, and we can see it in the reconstruction, the planned reconstruction of the government, is that the correct strategy? Will it win the votes that they need to have in the coming parliamentary elections to actually have a chance of winning? Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Biskup.
It's a question for me. Okay, so I remember all my former students, but the professor, it's it's very. I'm very happy that you are on this position. So you asked me about the future strategy, yeah, about the future strategy of Civic Platform. It's very difficult question, because the two big parties, Civic Platform and PiS, should change something big in their strategy and their behavior, and I think it should be a change towards the young people, because Bartosz says that there is a smaller group of young people in the share of the voters, but it will be more and more important. And for example, Polish politicians don't have and candidates for president also don't have the offer in their program for the young people. About I don't know, some economical offers, some I don't know, flats offers and flats programs and other, and they should change it. And the Civic Platform has also the same problem, because they have to have the offer for the younger voters, and also do something I don't know against, but how to say it, but because the European trends also in Poland, existing in Poland, it's very good for right-wing parties, not left-wing parties. It's connected with the safety, of course, with the war and so on and so on. And the Civic Platform has no communication, towards the right-wing voters, and I don't think so. They should change the position like Trzaskowski, because it's not credible. Because the Trzaskowski in the first months of campaign move to right wing and says no help, no financial help for the children of Ukrainians. it's a communication like Mentzen or Brown, even Brown. So that was completely misunderstanding. But I think that these young people, and Bartosz says about the young people, probably is it's some solution for the civic platform, but they also should be populistic like whole parties nowadays, because there is no other way, unfortunately, to gain the electorate. So it's very hard question, because but the one last one sentence that probably they should focus on governing, because they didn't fulfill the promises, the expectation of the electorate, not only young people, but for example women. They promises the whole program for women, abortion law, and so on and so on. That was very important. And those women says, oh, nothing's happened after 1 year and a half. You even didn't try to do it. Only they says that President Duda will have a veto. So we will do nothing. So probably the good governing will be the solution, the kind of solution for them.
Thank you, Małgorzata.
If I may, I will refer shortly to the first question. What about the young people? I would like to add my 5 cents to the discussion. Of course, I think I agree with my colleagues that, of course, the channels of communication, or the new tools of the social media used by all those candidates, especially Sławomir Mentzen or Adrian Zandberg, were contacting to the young people. I'm also not using TikTok, but right now TikTok, we had to be aware, and we had to try to look at these sources of the information, what is given there. But of course, Law and Justice and all those spin doctors of Mr. Nawrocki's also created very good information channels for the elderly people, using television, using newspapers, and all that stuff. I think that is also what makes those young people being seduced, or I would say in academic wording, being convinced into the right. They got the information through their channels, which they use normally. And what else? The second thing is clear solutions, clear information, clear answers, which has been given by Sławomir Mentzen, by all those guys who used the discussions or deliberating with the people. Sławomir Mentzen, for example, if young people would have thought more what Sławomir Mentzen, for example, was giving there or offering them, for example, paid education. I don't know whether if they would, as older people, would support him as they did. What was convincing for them from the side of during the first round from this Mr. Mentzen's appeal was an entertainment way of the electoral strategy. I would say that thing, and clear appeal, clear solutions for every problem. If I may, Katarzyna, to refer to your question, although that was directed to Professor Biskup, but if you don't mind, for example, what would be the strategy next? I think we could have seen by the vote of motion of confidence. So for the Donald Tusk right now, first is to unify really eclectic coalition, which is very divided inside, 100 points, 100 aspects, which could be, which should and was planned to realize within the first 100 days, was from very beginning was utopian program. It shouldn't be done. It shouldn't be offered, publicized, because it was not possible to do clearly. And they tried to do something within this government. They tried, and there were attempts towards the abortion case, towards the same-sex marriages or partnership relationships, some official registration, some plans for the official registration, but they have been blocked by PSL, by Christian Democrats, Peasant Party, right? So they were not even not the stage to giving that project to the President Duda and to show to the people that there is a gridlock. Right. So afterwards, after such conflicts, which were very painful for the coalition and showed that there is a huge problem with the unification, I would say that the whole coalition, Prime Minister especially, decided not to do that later on, but showing the people or using narrative that there is a gridlock at the presidential palace, so-called Great Palace, and so we won't be attempting to trigger that gridlock in that process. And what makes me really thinking, and that is also probably the question for the next in-depth research, Trzaskowski tried to use and activate young people doing or organizing the campaign, the Campus Polska, so-called gathering once a year, annual meeting of the young people and discussion. That was the September or the late of the holidays, activating or unifying young people in Masurian region and discussing with them discussing and talking with the young people about the politics. What are the expectations? What are the programs, plans? Their solutions, and that didn't resulted into, and that is very interesting. What has happened? Because he did his job, and what something has happened inside. We had to research. I think we may give some hypothesis, but that is also interesting for thinking in terms of what happened with young people and young voters. So for the next, I think the government must act actively, because I have some kind of I remind myself what was happening with the PO and PSL coalition within the 2007, 2011 and until 2015. They also didn't have they didn't do what we have been expecting as a voters, as a supporters of that coalition. They didn't fulfill also fulfill what they said before elections. Simply speaking, you cannot step right now twice into the same river. That is what Donald Tusk must do, and he had to change if he wants to be effective. He had 1 and 2.5 years until next general elections, and he had to, if he wants to, not lose next general elections. Also, including all those coalition partners, especially that would be hard work for the third way, so-called third way. So Hołownia's and Poland 2050 and PSL, Peasants Party together. Also with the New Left, including Mrs. Biejat, who resigned from Together Party and joined to the New Left to fight for their identity. And that is also something what is acting and very difficult to keep the whole this eclectic coalition together. Thank you.
Thank you. Bartosz?
I would let Sarah to take the floor, because I was saying, so I will pass my voice to Sarah. Please go ahead.
Okay, Sarah.
Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm currently a PhD student at INALCO, and Jean-Michel is one of my supervisors. And I'm a former student of Professor Biskup and Dr. Małgorzata. And I'm very, very happy to see you again. I wanted to point two things. First of all, I wanted to ask about the origin of this wish for disengagement of the state that we see in young people votes for Manson, etc. So where does it come from? And how to answer to this phenomenon? How does the state actually answer to this phenomenon, and what are the plans? And my second question is, can we make some parallelisms with other Central Eastern European countries? Because I think this is a systemic problem linked to this fascination by neoliberalism in former socialist countries. So I wanted to point these two things. Thank you.
Thank you. I propose to give the floor for the last time to all the three presentation, and I want to ask you to read, because you have also some question in the chat. Antonio and Katarzyna sent, and Małgorzata, you have a question for you. Then if you can read, I sent also the paper from Bartosz in the chat. If somebody is interesting, I have in my computer, then very easy. Okay, Małgorzata, maybe you can begin to answer after Bartosz, and finally Professor Biskup, and the conclusion for Professor Woźnicki. Please, quickly.
Małgorzata, go ahead. Okay, but so
much too much. So you start and then we.
Okay, so I will do this like shortly. So of course, yeah, we have this fascination of the neoliberal language, because majority of countries in Central Eastern Europe been enormously homogenized by the language of free market. In other words, Milton Friedman's ghost is still alive in Central Eastern Europe. And this is one of the reasons why Sławomir Mencen is so popular, because there is no alternative to the language about welfare state, labor market, housing, and so on. The left is slightly changing that, but at schools, when you meet with the alumni of high schools, if you ask students, like the pupils, like to finish the sentence, taxes should be, and then everybody said low. So state should be minimal. State companies should be privatized. Yeah, so like this is one of the reasons why the left has such big problems. Because they don't have access, like, to change also educational system. So very shortly, like, and sum up, also like answering Katarzyna Lizierska's question, I think that the inhabitants, citizens of small cities and villages are the key for the civic coalition and the current government to succeed. But I cannot see, after 1.5 years, like a massive projects which going to help the people living there. Like, I'm from small city close to Warsaw, though, but my hometown, Nowodwór Mazowiecki, hospital facing like a big problems in terms of lack of investments in healthcare. So further from Warsaw, further from Kraków, you would see, we call this, Poland B issues, downfall of former industrial zones. So we don't have one Rust Belt like in the United States. We have many Rust Belts, almost every voivodeship. So I think that this is a topic. And last but not least, in terms of this absolutely hilarious and weird strategy of Rafał Trzaskowski himself being rather center leftish, or liberal candidate, then moving to the radical right language means that the Civic Platform and the staff never read the paper Understanding Right-Wing Populism and What to Do About It, made by Daphne, you know Daphne, Halikopoulou and Tim Blandas. I'm going to send the link to their absolutely great report from a few years back when they prove on the data that this idea that right now, like the establishment parties are going to use the anti-immigrant language doesn't mean that they are going to steal the anti-immigrant voters. They're going mostly to demotivate their own. And I think that this is the case study of Rafał Trzaskowski. Rafał Trzaskowski was not credible whatsoever. When he was saying such nasty things about the Ukrainians, was basically painful to watch, demotivate many of the leftist and liberal voters to vote for him in the second round. Yeah, so even if Civic Platform would like to do such politics, if they would like to do use this language, they should definitely choose Radosław Sikorski. Radosław Sikorski is the great Minister of Foreign Affairs, but he's conservative by core. Like he is right-wing person, right? So if Civic Platform would decide to increase chances, they should vote in the primary for Radosław Sikorski. Don't get me wrong, like not the hero from my story. But he would have better chances. Law and Justice knew that Rafał Trzaskowski was going to be the candidate for 5 years. And for the 5 years, they were analyzing him. They were analyzing his strengths and weaknesses. But Law and Justice has one advantage than all the other parties. They are interested in the competition. Civic Platform see Law and Justice as a peasant, uneducated, poor and smelly people. As long as they are going to see radical right in that way, they're going to lose elections because nobody like to be seen from the up. And this is how Civic Platform is behaving. I'm going to send the link to the paper I was mentioning in the chat. Thank you very much.
Zata?
Referring to the and answering, thank you for questions, Sarah, and thank you for Antonio and Katarzyna, your also question. It's good to understand what is going on among the candidates and, of course, among the electorate. Answering Sarah's question and the phenomenon of the Mr. Mensen and young people and how decline of the left is influencing rise of the right. There is a very good book of Maria Sniegowaja, which examined and researched what has happened in Eastern and Central Europe among the voters and how, in fact, that is what covers the conclusions of this book also, and what is my observation, that right-wing political parties, so-called right-wing political parties, like, for example, Law and Justice, which we called normally and internationally right wing. But if you look at the social program of that political party, it's completely leftist. Even though a socialist, so with all those social benefits and reducing taxes, these kind of things. So we have to be aware that leftist appeal was stolen, has been stolen by right wing, so from the sphere. So it's good to remember that left moved to the right, and that is also the case when you look at the northern part of France, how leftist voters from the Mainerie and Mainz regions also moved to the Rassemblement National right now, and Front National earlier. Referring to the, I stop right now because the time flies, but I hope I answered a bit. And Sławomir Menzen's completely different story. He's from the new generation. I agree with my colleagues, and he is presenting, I think, I'm quite interested in whether those who are supporting him, as I said before, are aware what he proposes for their future, because right now they are not buying a flat, and they are also not do not have young children which will be in the future in an education system. Referring to the Antonio's comment, as Professor showed me that there is a, I'm so sorry, I didn't look at that. Of course, no doubt about that, that personal political personality, if it's coherent, and Karol Nawrocki has that, such coherence. He didn't move, he didn't switch from side to side as Trzaskowski did. For example, using this right-wing appeal against the Ukrainians, but not only looking at the flag, Polish flag, Polishness. We had to, fight for that. This guy who didn't, took the colorful flag for the LGBTQ plus movement. The person, mayor of Warsaw, who organizes and co-organizes, supports every year annual parade of LGBTQ plus, which took place last Saturday. That was a clash in appeal that was completely incoherent, and I fully agree. Answering Antonio's question in a chat, it is important to be coherent in the program, in the appeal, in the image politically. Not so many people are reading full programs. Of course, what is in a discussion, put in the discussion, put in during the TV duels, that is what should be also coherent. And to, of course, the second comment from Katarzyna.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I hope I answered. Katarzyna, also you are right that Rafał Trzaskowski missed that element what Sławomir Mencen didn't, and what also whole Law and Justice was also in their mind. Small villages, people are they need to shake a hand, to see the politician, to see some interest of the small constituency, of the small city, of the small county. That is important for everyone. Everyone wants to be seen, but all those guys who are in the television, who are in newspapers, who are in the social media, who we are listening to. So if such person comes to small villages, cities, that was a problem of Rafał Trzaskowski. But it is. I think that was not. That was the homework, which hasn't been done by the group of people who prepared the electoral strategy for the Rafał Trzaskowski. He tried to do that, but it was not convincing. He is a mayor of the biggest city of the country. That is also, and he was not.
So, do you think it is a lack of electoral strategy? It is a lack of.
I think so. I think
okay.
so, or not. He, and probably lack of the electoral strategy, or maybe what has happened also during the electoral campaign, when the first Duda's campaign against Komorowski. In 2015, when Komorowski was too convinced that he will win, and he was not doing his job, very carefully, step by step, seeing every group, every cluster of the society. Also, he didn't mention everyone. So I think this feeling, which I thought that there is some kind of although of course this 53% of all those
maybe the civic platform didn't choose the right candidate to. I
think so. That is what Bartek said, Bartosz Rydliński, who said that during the primaries, people in a civic coalition, civic platform, actually supported Rafał Trzaskowski, although. Please remember that Mr. Sikorski his roots are in a right-wing political parties. So that is why much closer to the average member of the civic platform, which is not a whole Poland, was closer to the Rafał Trzaskowski. Right now, many of them are talking about the better candidate, which could have been that Sikorski probably would be much stronger, much coherent in this right-wing appeal and trying to convince this part of the electorate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's more easy if you can use the yellow hand and to manage the discussion, please, my colleagues. And now we will finish with Professor Biskup. I don't know where is Professor Wozniacki. I hope that all is okay because he disappeared, but maybe it's another.
He has a problems with connection with internet.
Okay.
So he sent me a message. So probably he's some problems. So he's very sorry. But just a few short points for the finishing connected with everything what we are discussing, because of course the strategy of Trzaskowski was probably they had some mistakes, but the candidate was also the mistake, because we have, as we say in Poland, we have the pendulum from left to right, and this pendulum is now in the right position, and the most of Poles has a right wing views, and if you have the left liberal candidate, and you have primary election in the civic platform with the showing and choosing from only two candidates, because there was only two candidates made by Donald Tusk, but not made by civic platform members, or I don't know, from Poles, or but because
so maybe better primaries,
no,
better.
Please, it's not
probably
possible.
But
sorry.
But I think that I think, because I'm focused also on the professionalization of the politics. The civic platform and PiS has the very good polls, but problem was with the interpretation and moving it toward the strategy. And in the PiS, Law and Justice, they have very good specialists, and they are hearing the polls. And this candidate Nawrocki was from the polls, not from the showing of Kaczynski, of Tusk, or something on the chief of the party. That was exactly candidate from the polls, and that was the advantage, I think. And of course the other factors also, but it's a professionalization nowadays. You cannot ignore the polls, and you should move it towards the strategy. It's of course my opinion. And for the other questions, and especially for Sarah questions, we have a lot. We have now in Poland a lot of anti-establishment voters, especially young voters, and it's no difference that it's right or left. From the left hands, from the Zandberg, you have also anti-establishment, and it's a specific for these days that we have the flows of the electorate between Zandberg and Mencen. It's far right and far left. It was a few years ago there was no flows, little flows, no flows, almost no flows between these electorates, and now we have, because the common factor, the common thing is that they are anti-establishment people. They don't want to hear the state, to hear the prime minister, president, and so on and so on. It is quite specific. So I think from my side, it's the last remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you for your participation, to accept in this difficult time for academic world to present your very, very interesting analysis. I hope that is only the beginning of collaborations, that we can publish something about all this very interesting issue. Also, I think it's very important to make some comparisons between Poland and other cases. I have some ideas. We keep in touch. Thanks a lot. I will send you a message when we publish this when this recording in our blog, and we keep in touch. I hope to meet you in Poland in September or in October. I must discuss with Professor Woznicki, and I want to thank a lot Professor Woznicki, because he helped me a lot to organize all this webinar. It's fantastic, and thank you very much. Good holidays. We must think to to holidays to have some courage to finish academic year, and see you soon in Brussels. If you are in Brussels, please send me a message, and we can organize a presentation, webinar, etc., etc. Bye bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
See you soon. See you soon. Bye.